You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. I am Daniel.
I am Clint, and this is John from John Tweets Sports. John, how you doing today, brother?
I am doing great. The Georgia Bulldogs are in the national championship.
Ooh.
I had a Florida fan come at me on Twitter about calling this game the Natty. They said that the Natty is what you win, and that the game is called the game or the final. I don't know if they, the United Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl has really messed up there.
What's that?
Their postseason. I don't know. I guess you have to have official names when you play in those kind of bowls.
Sure.
This is just called the Natty. So I'm excited.
No, it's called the Natty.
Just to be clear, things could have changed, John, in the decade and a half that it's been since Florida has even sniffed at this game, even gotten a whiff of this kind of.
That's right.
Of this kind of limelight. So things could have changed. It could have been back in the day, back when the players Florida's trying to recruit were infants, and they were competing for championships. It could have been that.
Okay. Today's episode is brought to you by Netsuite. Netsuite is #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Head to netsuite.com/locked for special end-of-the-year financing. Now continue.
Don't ask the man a question if you don't want a robust conversation.
I asked him. You started talking.
He said, "How you're doing?"
Daniel.
Listen,
I didn't say, "What do you think, Daniel?" I asked John what he thought. I didn't ask you. Hey, if you're new to the podcast, if you're new to YouTube, you shouldn't have to go any further than the 2-minute mark to realize we are fans. We talk like fans. We're not gurus or insiders. This is so much less bow tie and so much more whiskey. Like that's kind of the tagline. Literally, it's there. We're fans first and foremost. Glad you're here. Today's episode, we're going to talk about that natty that Florida's not in, that Georgia is in, that we will be playing Bama come Monday night. Much to the chagrin of a lot of you fans, it's not Saturday, it's Monday. Deal with it. Let's move on. Daniel, how breaking down these segments today?
Well, let's do this. We ended the podcast yesterday, and by the way, thank you so much for all of your insightful comments in the comment section. We do love to read them. A lot of people actually some really good thoughts on the game. I think, John, I'm going to ask you this question because this is the vibe I'm getting from Alabama fans. And then here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what we ended the show yesterday by talking about. We're going to talk about what's the game plan. What's the game plan for Alabama to beat Georgia? And then maybe we'll flip that and say what's the game plan for Georgia to beat Alabama. But, John, I want to start by this. I have a hypothesis that as much as Georgia fans want to win this game, and they do, they're desperate to win this game. Mm-hmm. I think equally true is that Alabama fans are scared to lose this game. And I don't mean Alabama fans that you're scared that you're going to lose, that you fear Georgia. Mm-hmm. I mean you're scared of the prospect of losing the game. I think Alabama fans are the most insecure fan base in all of sports. And they need to be on top of the mountain to feel good about themselves. And they are terrified of the prospect that someone could come and knock them off this pedestal. Do you get that vibe in your interactions with Alabama fans, John, or is that something I'm making up?
No, I definitely get that vibe. You can see it for yourself if you go on to the interwebs and the social medias when Alabama lost to Texas A&M. This is a fan base who has won 7 national championships, has played for a gazillion of them since Nick Saban has been there. They are in another one, and yet, any prospect of a loss sends them into 2 areas. Number one, it sends them into the area of trying to figure out how they're going to excuse that loss. And number 2, it sends them into a I honestly believe this, and I shout out to my family members, believe it or not, who are Alabama fans. I have members of my extended family who are Alabama fans. there's a deep insecurity of losing what they have, because it is very difficult for them to look and see that there is, Nick Saban is 70 years old. He's in his 27th year of coaching and of head coaching, and then all those years of being an assistant. And there's not another Nick Saban walking through that door. So I think that is a deep insecurity.
Well, there is Dabo Swinney, so they're
they're
gonna pluck Dabo Swinney from
absolutely. He did a great job this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reloading.
I think it's interesting question Daniel and I had, John, for this game winning. Georgia wins this game, and all of a sudden you're talking about possibly Saban and Alabama. We've been winning on the recruiting trail.
Yep.
There's been a gap that is closed on that. You want to talk about talent on the roster? I was just talking to Locked On Bama. Mm-hmm. He thinks 10 out of the top 12 players in this game are the most talented belong to Georgia. Mm-hmm. Okay. All of a sudden you win one from Nick after Kirby said he couldn't. And after we got here, and all of a sudden you got a stew going in which the conversation turns into, oh no, is Kirby now, is this starting to happen?
It's very different winning a game at home in the 4th or 5th week of the regular season versus Alabama, like Texas A&M did this year, or the prospect of winning a national championship like Kirby Smart is leading the team into the opportunity to do that on Monday. Those are very, very, very different things. And you get over that hurdle. And I think if you're Kirby Smart, there's a lot of things that open up, and I think, let's be honest, recruits, Nick Saban is the greatest coach of all time, greatest college football coach of all time.
100% accurate.
100%, no question about it. I will give that man his due forever. He is a fantastic football coach. But you do have to look at the prospect of, you got a guy over here that's 45, 46 years old that has the energy, that has the chutzpah and the swagger that Kirby Smart has on that recruiting trail. The young pup jumps up and dethrones the king even for one game. I mean, that's a really, really, really big deal. I think it's a bigger deal than people want to admit. Yeah.
Alabama fans terrified of the bowl cut. You heard it here first. They are scared to death of bowl cut and Kirby Smart.
And 30 seconds, just real quick, guys. The reason being is because they never want to give Kirby Smart the credit that he is due of helping to build that dynasty that they have enjoyed.
No.
They never want to give him that credit. And when he beats Nick Saban, they have to give him that credit. And I think that's the real insecurity. Well, they don't have to, but that's the insecurity that they're looking down the road at, of like, wait a second, this guy learned everything from our guy, and now all of a sudden he is beating our guy, and that is not a prospect that they are prepared to live with.
No, it's not great. All right, we're going to get into those questions. We're going to attack this game plan. If we were the coaching staffs, which thank the Lord, the coaching staffs are much smarter than we are, but
y'all happy that we are here on this podcast. Let's just make that
please
perfectly
be happy.
known.
What's the anticipated game plan? How do you attack each of these teams? And so we're going to come back and talk about that. But first, want to let you know about Built Bar. It is the tastiest protein bar on planet Earth. Built Bar comes in a wide variety of delicious flavors. All of them can be found at BuiltBar.com. You've got fruit flavors, chocolate flavors, caramel flavors. Whatever you want is there at BuiltBar.com. This is 2022. It's the new year. You're trying to eat right. You're trying to make good choices. You're trying to avoid things that are bad for you and pursue things that are good for you. The problem is things that are good for you are not good. They don't taste good. You don't want to eat them. And so you're going to renege on your resolutions quickly. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's high in protein, high in fiber, low in sugar, keto approved. It is a candy bar, but it's actually a protein bar.
Hmm.
It is the one that Clint and I trust. It's the one we reach for when we hit that 2 o'clock lull, or on the way to the office, or on the way home, or whenever you need it. BuiltBar.com. Enter the promo code LOCKEDON15 and you get 15% off your order at BuiltBar.com. Promo code LOCKEDON15.
Also, want to let you know really quick about Get Upside. This is an incredible app. Everyone needs to have to buy gas. Daniel, you buy gas. Many people are about to hit the road.
I've done it. I've done it.
Once or twice. Many people are going to hit the road coming up very soon and try to travel on down to Indianapolis, or up to Indianapolis, or side to Indianapolis. Just get there. Yes, it's cold. Deal with it. And all y'all, right? I'm telling you, I'm interrupt this ad read for this.
Put on a sweater.
Shut your hole how cold it is. You don't know cold, okay? I know cold. You shut your hole. Listeners right now are making 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code SCORE and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free. Use promo code SCORE. 50-cent gallon cash back. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can withdraw with PayPal, e-gift card straight to your bank account with the App Store and promo code SCORE. Get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE.
Clint, the Weldon brothers, if we make them the title sponsor of the podcast, are offering to come shovel your driveway, snow removal. So just something to consider.
Instant yes. Instant yes.
The presented by the Lockdown Bulldogs podcast, presented by the Weldon brothers.
Yes,
so,
yes, in perpetuity.
I'm not sure what they get out of it, but that's it.
Let's make it happen.
All right, John, Clint, we ended the podcast this way yesterday. If you are this Alabama team, how are you going to attack Georgia? What's your game plan to try to win? And this, on the surface, seems like a ridiculous question, because not 3 weeks ago, we watched this Alabama team absolutely decimate this Georgia team. They beat them 41-24. We all know the score. And so you might say to yourself, well, what kind of a silly question is this? If you're this Georgia team, if you're this Alabama team, you just do the same thing that you did the last time against Georgia. But is that true? That's where I want to start. Is that the case? Is that the game plan to beat Georgia? How do you do it if you're Alabama? Do you just try to carbon copy what happened in Atlanta 3 weeks ago?
John,
what do you think, Clint? All right, I'll go first.
I could go first if you want me to. I don't want to put you on the spot the whole time.
No, I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll be quick though. No. First of all, you're missing a key component to that game plan. A guy named John Mechie, who you hate to see anyone get hurt. You certainly, I think, as competitors, you want to play against the best, but you are missing John Mechie, who was a huge part of that game plan. So you can't come out and do the same thing that you tried to do. Number two, the Georgia defense. I was looking at this earlier today, and legitimately, the Georgia defense, for all intents and purposes, has dominated 54 out of 56 quarters in 2021. One of those was the first quarter at Tennessee, where they gave up 162 yards in the first quarter and 10 points. And the other one was Alabama in the second quarter, where they gave up 309 yards of offense and 24 points.
John, the whole not just Lewis Seen yardage, the whole team. How many did the whole?
That's William Poole yardage too, guys.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you can't come out with the same game plan, because you have to think a defense that has dominated 54 out of 56 quarters and played well, that held Alabama to points below Georgia's senior season average allowed in the first and fourth quarter of that game. Like, you have to look at that and say, Georgia has smart coaches. Georgia has smart defensive coaches. Georgia has good players. You can't come out with the same game plan. So that's, the easy answer to that is no. I think for me, like, you got to find it sounds ridiculous, but Alabama had to do it against Cincinnati. Well, they could do it against Cincinnati. They didn't have to, but you got to find a way to get Brian Robinson in the game. He's healthy. You got to find a way to get him running the ball. And it's going to be a tough sledding, but that for me is like, you got to get it to him out of the backfield. You got to get him running the ball. You got to get Georgia, try to keep them honest, because I do think this game plan will be very different for Alabama. I don't think you can go out and do the same thing that you did last game.
No, you can't go out and do everything exactly the same way against Georgia, and they're not going to do the Cincy game. So all y'all who think they're going to try to get bully ball, they're not going to do bully ball because they know they're going to lose that one. Like,
he knows.
They know. All right, they could try to get Bama of old. Why would you? You have Bryce Young as quarterback, and they're going to lose that game because we own that territory. This is where they attack, and it's going to be interesting. I agree. It's a more balanced approach. They need Robinson to get 4 yards, 5 yards, because here's what I think they're going to want to do. They can't split the defensive attention with 2 burners and 2 incredible wide receivers anymore, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to have to take shots, and I think they're going to take shots against Darion. I really do, because if you watch how he plays, it's boom or bust, right? He's a gambler, which it works when he gets 2 interceptions. But he's going to get burned one play. Like, it's almost a guarantee for me. Mm-hmm. They want to keep on pace. They want to take shots, and they're going to use that Slade, whatever his name is, out of the slot.
Slade Bolden.
Blaiton.
Blade Slayton.
He's gonna make a good living with the Patriots, guys.
By the way,
great living with the New England Patriots.
Bama Lad McConkey's coming. I know how to pronounce his name, Bama fans. I am trolling you, and you just typed in a comment, and I proved my point.
It's Ojabo. Ojabo is how you say it. Like the number of pressures he had in the game.
Oh no! So I think, John, you're right. They're going to want to do that. It's going to be hard because they got offensive linemen out. I think Bryce Young's going to be scrambling, out of the pocket a little bit more. Honestly, like, this is going to sound weird. Not like Georgia's offense, but shades of it. Okay? Shades of it, because they can't. Again, last game we saw them motion to get Dan Jackson one-on-one on a otherworldly athlete. They're not going to be able to do that this game. We have people back. They have injuries. So, yeah, a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, they got good players now. They got good players for sure.
Players.
Like even the 2, the 2 and the 3 deep. So we got to respect the players, but I just don't. There's a difference between a John Mechie and what he can do, and only having to worry about Jameson Williams out there.
Yep. And I guess the point is, this is not 3 Georgia fans trying to say that Georgia is 100% going to win the game, or even that Georgia should be the favorite in the game, or whatever. This is just an exercise in an effort to point out that the comment that you just typed, which was 41-24, ha 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 ha, roll Tide roll. That comment doesn't mean a ton, because again, that score isn't necessarily indicative. It is indicative of who dominated that game. It's not necessarily indicative of anything that's related to this game, because again, if your game plan is the same as it was last time, Alabama, what you're saying is our game plan offensively is to have people not know what to do. Like, to have people run wide open, Georgia players not knowing what to do, and our guys run wide open, uncovered, not because of a tricky design, but because simply the Georgia DBs played the wrong coverage. We're in the wrong spot. And so if that's what you're banking on to win, well, congratulations. You're just hoping the other team, craps the bed, which it's fine. Georgia might crap the bed again, but that shouldn't be your game plan trying to win. And that's what happened in Atlanta.
Well, what Bama figured out was William Poole, who, to his credit, against Michigan, allowed 2 catches for 22 yards. Against Alabama, he allowed 9 catches for 164 yards, and 111 of those yards were yards after the catch. And when you look at those numbers, when you look at one guy giving up 9 receptions for 164 yards, 2 touchdowns, 111 yards after catch. You look at Lewis Seen, who gave up 6 receptions for 80 yards, and 44 of those yards were after the catch. And then you look at what, they're good players. You look at William Poole, who turned around and played almost 50 snaps against Michigan and played very well because Georgia had 3 to 4 weeks to fix that stuff that was wrong. And when you think about like the athletes that you line up out there, it's going to be very difficult for Alabama to get a Jameson Williams, for example, on a William Poole. They were able to get John Mechie on a William Poole or Jameson Williams on a William Poole because he had the other guy that they had to worry about. But when you're missing one of those guys, and again, not guaranteeing anything because this is Alabama, it's Nick Saban. I don't think Georgia should be the favorite in this game, which we can talk about as well. But you look at the gaudy numbers, particularly in that second quarter, and you got to think about a 15-minute period where it's very difficult for a team to make adjustments, and you just have these athletes running up and down the field. You put up 24 points. I just have a very hard time seeing that happening again with the personnel that Alabama's going to run out there. So they're going to have to figure out something else to be more balanced.
Yep. We got some more questions after this break, but first I want to let you know about NetSuite. This is it, the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software. To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite. How's that merger happening in Canada? Yes or no?
Oh, yeah, we're working on it. It's going to happen.
Love it. Fantastic. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Visibility, control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more. NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. It can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of the competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility control after upgrading NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade to netsuite.com/locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for the special one-of-a-kind financing offer of the #1 financial system for growing businesses, netsuite.com/locked.
Now, before we jump into this final segment, let me say, for the sake of balance, William Poole's performance against Alabama, William Poole's performance against Michigan, Bryce Young, Cade McNamara,
very fair and
very different humans. Okay,
very different.
Not a similar species at all. It does not seem.
But Slade Bolden and whoever those Michigan receivers were,
Blade Slayton is much better.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I believe his name is Chase Bladen. Chase Bladen is his name. Okay, Alabama fan right now. You're gonna learn his name on Monday night. Roll Tide, roll. All right, let's talk about the other side of the ball. Let's talk about Georgia's offense against Todd Monken. John, don't know if you agree. Doesn't matter if you do. We already said it on the podcast. So it's gospel at this point.
It's cemented.
It's been written in stone. We think Todd Monken called his best game of his Georgia career against Michigan. He was out there just hitting homers, just absolutely slugging.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfectly executed. It was very nearly perfectly executed, but it was darn near a perfect game plan. He had him off balance the whole game, and it was a thing of beauty. What's the game plan? Now, Michigan, a very different team than Alabama. Again, on the defensive side of the ball as well. Different in the secondary, different on the defensive front. So what's the game plan for Michigan for Georgia against Alabama on Monday when Georgia has the ball?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, and this is I'm just gonna say it, guys.
Oh,
I
no.
don't think Georgia has to change too much from what they did in the first game. And I believe this, and here's why. I think you had if anything, I think Stetson Bennett distributed the ball to too many people. Clint's
leaving the podcast. He's leaving the podcast right now.
I think Todd Monken. So I thought this. So I thought the same thing about the Michigan game. I thought it was Todd Monken's best game that he's called at Georgia since the first half of the 2020 Alabama game. If you remember that game, Stetson Bennett threw a batted ball. It got intercepted on the first drive. After that, Georgia went on to score 24 points in the first half versus Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and Todd Monken was emptying the bag. And I thought that Michigan game was a full sustained game of that, but it reminded me very much of that. And what he did was he took advantage of the mismatches because Georgia has mismatches on to exploit on this Alabama defense. You have 12 and 13 personnel with two tight ends in quotes. You have a running back stable that you can utilize in various ways, right? Like you can hand the ball to James Cook, you can throw it to him. You can hand it to Kenny McIntosh, you can throw it to him, he can throw the ball, as we saw versus Michigan. But I think Georgia they have to find a way to run the ball better. If there's one thing that they have to change, the offensive line has to assert itself like it did against Michigan and be in a place where you can keep, Will Anderson at bay as much as you can. But I think those mismatches are there to be had. What you can't do is you can't play outside of your game, turn the ball over, try to unexplicably, in my opinion, go for it on 4th and 9. It's like, take the points, right? Like, I think you have to not outsmart yourself and not outcoach yourself. But when I looked back at the Alabama game, truly, I think it was much more of the defense putting the offense in a position where they didn't want to be and couldn't operate because they were in their head. And I think if that happens again, if Georgia, in the first half, if Alabama comes out and is running up and down the field and scoring points, I think it's going to be a long day for Georgia. But I think if the defense shows up, I think the offensive game plan, doesn't have to change too much. And that's a real hot take, but that's my feelings. Clint, tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I actually don't disagree that much. There's a few wrinkles I'd add into it. But I think the offense in rhythm with what we have and what we do is just fine. We've been top 5 offense all year. Okay, like we're fine.
Yeah,
we're up there with them. So I don't think too much is needed. I actually think a game like Michigan is on next for Todd Monken and this offense. I mean, where do you want to attack Alabama? You don't want to attack Will Anderson except to run straight at him. We're not afraid of him in pass pro because we've just shown we could shut him down last game, which we did, except for 2 plays. And the pressures from Michigan wasn't there. I think Stetson's going to have more confidence and more ability to change the play call, which we found out this week from Kirby. He changed the play call a bunch of times at the line of scrimmage against Michigan. I think he's going to have that same ability against Alabama. I don't think Alabama has as much talent across the defense as we do on offense. I know, Bama fan, like we have better offensive skill positions than you do defensive skill positions. I believe that with my heart. So yeah, I think go out there, rinse, repeat from Michigan. And the things that might be a little different might be how do we add a little more run that's not just with Zeus? I think Michigan, it was clear, how do we get James Cook? How do we get Kenny McIntosh? how does that get up and going so we're not force feeding Brock so much on it? You might see a little bit more of that, but honestly, yeah, Todd Monken's game against Michigan and the game against Alabama, pretty close. Not exact, but close. Same family.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd say a couple things. One, to your point, John, Georgia played okay offensively, obviously, right? Like we turned the ball over in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's if you give us a field goal right there instead of a turnover.
Yep.
Then we scored 27 points in the game. You know, like it's not like and again, no help from the defense. None whatsoever. No short fields, no block punts, no turnovers. I mean, Bryce Young did throw an interception in the fourth quarter, as he is prone to do when he gets pressured. But the offense, while the game plan might have been okay, Stetson Bennett was awful in that game. He was
execution poor.
Awful. He threw 2 interceptions. One of them was a pick six, but he threw another pick six in the first quarter. The dude just dropped it. He threw it. Do you remember that first drive of the game?
Oh, yeah.
He put it right in the breadbasket of a defender that just baited the throw. And he looked like Cade McNamara out there. Just threw it right to him, and he dropped it. So he's got to play better. Like, that's not the game plan, but Georgia's not going to win this game if Stetson doesn't have – he doesn't have to play as well as he did against Michigan, I don't think, for Georgia to win this game. But he does have to play a lot better than he played against Alabama. Not that he didn't make some throws against Alabama. You know, he hit George Pickens. He threw a million times to Brock Bowers, and it was awesome. He hit James Cook a few times on some swing passes that went for some decent gains. But the mistakes were there.
He had a drive, the second drive of the game, when Georgia went 8 plays, 97 yards, where he was 5 for 5 for 90 yards passing.
Yep, including throwing out of his own end zone to A.D. Mitchell, I believe, and spread the ball.
Yep, absolutely. So you know that's Stetson Bennett playing within himself. That is like he's in a position where he had a 3-0 lead. The defense had forced Alabama to 2 drives where they came away with no points, right? Like you're in a situation where, again, back to Clint's point, where you're in some kind of rhythm. And when you get in that rhythm, he can play really well.
He can,
But when the defense gets out of rhythm and you're in a situation where the team is on the field, scoring points quickly, or the team is on the field with long drives and ending in points, the opponent is on the field. That's where bad things happen. And
he's the perfect analogy to the rhythm jump shooter, right? In basketball, the 3-point shooter who needs to catch it on that little hop, and he needs that one dribble or whatever. He's not Steph Curry. He's not the guy that just goes out and gets his shot, no matter where it is, no matter when it is. That's not who he is. That's Bryce Young, to be fair. Bryce Young's the guy that just goes and gets his shot. Stetson needs the rhythm. And then, Clint, to your point, I think a key for Georgia offensively in this game, and I understand you put it on tape and you show it, because if you only do certain things with certain people, then the opposing team knows that you only do certain things. So we have not done that this year. But now it's the last game of the season. And so there's no more tape. You understand?
None.
So here's what I want to see from Georgia. I want to see us only use our best players in the best situations.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to hurt any feelings on the podcast, but I don't want to see Kenny McIntosh carry the ball one time in this game. Throw it to him. Throw it to him if you want, but do not hand him the ball.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say too. There is no reason, in my opinion, that Stetson Bennett needs to throw the ball to 10 or 11 people. There's no reason. Figure out your mismatches. Figure out what's working. Get those guys out in space and put good on good and go play ball. Like, I think if you get in a situation where you're rotating in, a gazillion guys, that's, again, it goes back to rhythm. And I think, when you look at the difference between, the Michigan game and the Alabama game, you saw explosive plays, but you also saw a lot of the guys that were in there were making they were having an opportunity to actually get the rhythm. And I think that's the difference between looking at the Alabama game where Stetson was throwing it to 10 or 11 people and Georgia had 4 or 5 different guys running the ball. And then you look at, the Michigan game and you had, it was actual matchup. The reason he was throwing it is because there was a mismatch.
Yes.
It was Jermaine Burton running to the boundary. It was James Cook out of the backfield on a linebacker. Like, that's what you've got to do, and that's how you build the rhythm, and not just be in a situation where you're slinging it around to everybody.
Again, James Cook on a linebacker, instant throw.
Give me
instant throw.
Come on,
every
Toto.
single time.
Put James Cook on Toto. Let's go.
Yeah.
To-oh, not going to like that one. To your point, the in-rhythm shooter, it's exactly what Georgia has on the basketball team with
Stop.
Stop. Hey, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking more Georgia National Natty, the game, the big one, national championship. We will see you guys tomorrow.
See ya.